That day, I stopped talking. Not because I wanted to, but because something inside me went quiet. I remember the sound of the door. It closed behind me. Soft, but final. I lost my job that morning. My boss looked at me. He did not smile. He said, "We don't need you anymore." I nodded. I did not ask why. I did not fight back. I just said, "Okay." My voice sounded strange. It did not feel like mine. I walked out of the office. People were talking around me. Phones were ringing. Someone was laughing. But all the sounds felt far away, like I was underwater. I took the bus home. I sat near the window. I looked outside. The city was the same. Cars moved fast. People crossed the street. Everything looked normal, but I felt different, empty. My phone rang. I looked at the screen. It was my friend, Anna. I did not answer. The phone stopped. Then it rang again. I turned it off. I did not want to talk. I did not know what to say. When I got home, I opened the door slowly. The room was quiet, too quiet. I put my bag on the floor. I did not turn on the lights. I just sat down. Time passed. I do not know how long. Minutes, maybe hours. I just sat there. A thought came into my head. What is wrong with me? I asked it again. What is wrong with me? I tried to think of an answer, but nothing came. Only silence. That night I lay in bed. My eyes were open. I looked at the ceiling. I felt tired, but I could not sleep. I picked up my phone again. Many messages. Are you okay? Call me. I'm worried about you. I read them, but I did not reply. I turned my phone over. The screen went dark. And in that quiet room, with no voice, no answers, and no light, I felt something break inside me. Not loud, not sudden. Just slow and silent. That was the day everything went quiet. I stayed at home the next day, and the day after that. I did not go out. I did not talk to anyone. I sat on the floor most of the time. Sometimes I looked at the wall. Sometimes I looked at my hands. They felt strange, like they did not belong to me. I did not feel hungry. I ate a little, just enough to stop the pain in my stomach. Food had no taste. The room felt smaller each day. The air felt heavy. I opened the window once, but I closed it again. The outside world felt too loud. My phone stayed off. I did not want to see any messages. I did not want to explain my life, because I did not understand it myself. One afternoon I stood up slowly. My legs felt weak. I walked across the room, step by step. Then I stopped. There was something in the corner, covered in dust, quiet, forgotten. It was an old piano. I looked at it for a long time. I had not touched it in years. It was my mother's piano. She loved music. She played every day, in the morning, in the evening. Sometimes she played soft songs. Sometimes she played happy songs. The house was always full of sound. I remember sitting next to her. I was small. I watched her hands move. Slow, gentle. She smiled at me. She once said, "Music can hold your heart." I did not understand her then. I just nodded. Now I stood in front of that piano, but the house was quiet, too quiet. I walked closer. My hand reached out, but I stopped. I felt afraid of the sound, afraid of the memories, afraid of feeling something again. I pulled my hand back. I turned away. But after a few steps I stopped again. I looked back. The piano was still there, waiting. I took a deep breath, slow, shaky. Then I walked back. I sat down in front of it. The bench felt cold. I looked at the keys, black and white. Some were a little yellow, some had small cracks. I lifted my hand, very slowly. And then I pressed one key. A soft sound filled the room. I froze. The sound was simple, just one note. But it stayed in the air. I felt something move inside me, very small, very quiet, like a tiny light in a dark place. I pressed another key, then another. The sounds were not perfect. They were slow, broken, but they were real. My chest felt tight. My eyes began to burn. I stopped playing. I stood up quickly. I stepped back. "No," I whispered. I was not ready. I turned away again. But this time the silence in the room felt different. It was still quiet, but not empty. Something had changed, just a little. That night, I could not sleep. I closed my eyes. Then I opened them again. The room was dark, but my mind was loud. I turned in bed, left, right. It did not help. I sat up slowly. My heart felt heavy. Then I heard it. Not a real sound, just a memory. A soft piano note. I looked toward the corner of the room. The piano was there, quiet, waiting. I stayed still for a moment. Then I got up. My steps were slow, but this time I did not stop. I sat down in front of the piano again. The air felt cold. My hands felt colder. I placed my fingers on the keys. They shook. "I can't," I whispered. But I did not move away. I took a deep breath. Then I pressed the first key. A soft sound came out, then another, and another. The notes were not right. I forgot many things. My fingers moved the wrong way. I made mistakes, again and again, but I did not stop. I played slowly, very slowly. The sounds filled the room, not beautiful, but honest. My chest began to hurt. A memory came back. My mother was sitting next to me. She smiled. She said, "Don't be afraid, just play." My hands shook more. "I miss you," I said softly. My voice broke. I kept playing, even when I could not see clearly. Tears fell on the keys. One drop, then another. I did not stop them. I cried and played and cried. All the feelings came out. The fear, the pain, the silence, everything I tried to hide. It was too much, but it was also a relief. "I lost everything," I said. "I am nothing now." The room did not answer, but the music did, soft, broken, but still there. I kept playing, even when my hands felt weak, even when my heart felt tired. Minutes passed, or maybe hours. I did not know. Then slowly, my hands stopped. The last note stayed in the air, long, gentle. I sat there, very still. My face was wet, my chest was heavy, but something inside me felt lighter. Not happy, not okay, but not completely broken. I looked down at my hands. They were still shaking, but they were alive. A quiet thought came into my mind, soft, almost afraid. Maybe, I took a small breath, maybe I can still feel. I closed my eyes, and for the first time in many days, the silence around me did not scare me. The next morning, I woke up late. The room was quiet, but it did not feel as heavy as before. I sat up in bed. My head felt slow. My eyes still hurt. I looked at the piano. It was still there. I stayed in bed for a moment. Then I stood up. I walked to the window. I opened it this time. Fresh air came in, cool, soft. I took a deep breath. It felt new. For a moment I just stood there, listening. Birds, cars, people talking far away. The world was still moving. I turned back. I looked at the piano again. I walked toward it. Slowly, but not afraid. I sat down. My hands rested on the keys. I closed my eyes. Then I started to play. The sound came out softer this time, still simple, still not perfect, but smoother. My hands remembered a little more. My heart felt a little calmer. I played the same notes again and again, like a quiet wave. Then I heard something, a small sound from outside. I stopped. "Hello?" a voice said. I froze. I stood up slowly. I walked to the window. A woman stood downstairs. She looked up at me. She smiled. "That was you?" she asked. I did not know what to say. "Yes," I said. My voice was soft. She nodded. "That sounds beautiful," she said. I shook my head quickly. "No, I am not good." She smiled again, warm, kind. "You made me stop," she said. "You made me listen." I looked at her. I felt something strange in my chest. "I felt calm," she added. I did not answer. I did not know how to answer. But I did not feel empty. Not this time. "Please keep playing," she said. Then she gave a small wave and walked away. I stood at the window, watching her leave. The street looked the same, but it did not feel the same. I went back to the piano. Slowly. I sat down again. My hands rested on the keys. I took a deep breath. Then I played. This time, not just for me. The notes felt warmer, softer, more alive. I made mistakes, but I did not stop. A small smile came to my face. It felt new, but it felt right. That day I played for a long time, and for the first time I felt something I thought I lost. Connection, not loud, not strong, but real. And that was enough. Days passed, then weeks. I started to play every day, in the morning, in the afternoon, sometimes at night. I still made mistakes, many of them, but I did not stop anymore. My fingers grew stronger, my hands felt steady, and my heart felt different, not perfect, not always happy, but alive. I turned my phone on one day. Messages filled the screen. "Where are you? Are you okay? I miss you." I read them slowly. Then I typed, "I am getting better." I stopped. Then I added, "A little." I pressed send. It was a small step, but it felt big to me. I started to go outside again. Short walks at first, just around the block. The air felt fresh. The sky felt wide. One day I found a small cafe, quiet, warm. I stood at the door. I heard soft music inside. I walked in. A man behind the counter smiled. "Do you play?" he asked. He pointed to a piano in the corner. I felt nervous. "A little," I said. He nodded. "You can try," he said. I walked to the piano. My steps were slow, but I did not stop. I sat down. People were talking softly. Cups touched the table. The world felt gentle. I placed my hands on the keys. For a second I felt afraid again. What if I fail? Then another thought came, soft, clear. Just play. So I did. The first note came out, then another. The sound was not perfect, but it was honest. The room grew quiet. People turned their heads, not all, just a few. But that was enough. I kept playing, slow, calm, real. I did not hide my mistakes. I let them stay, because they were part of me. When I finished, the room stayed quiet for a moment. Then someone clapped. Another, then more. I looked up. My eyes felt warm. I smiled. Not because I was perfect, but because I was still here, still playing, still feeling. That night I walked home slowly. The city lights were soft. The air felt kind. I opened my door. The room was quiet again. But this time it did not feel empty. I looked at the piano. I walked to it. I touched the keys gently. I closed my eyes. I took a deep breath. And I understood something. Music did not fix everything. It did not bring my old life back. But it stayed with me when I had nothing else. It held me when I was falling apart. It gave me a voice when I could not speak. I opened my eyes. A small smile came to my face, and I whispered, "Thank you." Then I began to play again. Soft, warm, alive. This time I was not alone.